Good morning everyone. Today we will discuss NCERT Class 9 Science Chapter 6, that is Tissue. So let's begin. These are my credentials. So as its name signifies, we have to discuss about tissues. But before discussing about the tissues, we have to recall about previous chapter, which was about the cell, the fundamental unit of life. So every organism which is present on this earth, either it may be plant, animal or microbe, made up of cells only. So here if we talk about unicellular organism, if you remember the unicellular organism, what does it mean? They are made up of only single type of cell. Okay, but if we talk about the animal and plant cell, they show a higher level of organization. That means higher level of organization means cell forms the tissue and tissue forms the organ and organ forms the organ system. So this way they show the higher level of organization. So how tissues are formed in the animal system or plant system? When all the structurally similar cells come together and combined to form a particular type of function, then we call it as a tissue. For example, आप यहाँ देख रहे हैं, you can see this is the tissue structure. So here one cell, two cell and similar type of cells. All the cells are similar and they combine to form a particular tissue that form a particular function. So this is known as tissue only. Now you can see these are the example of tissues. For example, blood is a tissue, muscle is a tissue and phloem, which is present in plant cell. So plant. So this is also a tissue. Now, are plants and animal made of same type of tissues? So let us compare their structure and function. If we talk about the plant tissues actually are supportive tissue which provide structural strength, and plant tissue organization is simple. If we see animal tissues, they are complex tissues, and plant tissues less maintenance of energy is required. It is also correct because they don't move in search of the food, water, anything. They are static, so less maintenance of energy is required as compared to animal tissues. They move, so they require more energy. Many of the plant tissues are dead because dead tissues provide mechanical strength to the plant and they require less energy. And plant grow continuously throughout lifetime, but in animal, after reaching maturity, they don't grow. And sixth is photosynthetic activity is present. Yes, plant make their own food, but animal depend on others for food, or they dependent on the plants only for food. And in animal tissues, most of the tissues are living. So in conclusion, we can say the plant tissues are completely different from animal tissues, because animal move around in search of food, mate and shelter. So their tissues are all living, but in plant, most of the tissues are dead that provide structural and mechanical support. So first we will discuss about the plant tissues. Plant tissues are two types. One is meristematic tissues and other one is permanent tissue. Now permanent tissue is further divided into simple permanent and complex permanent. So first we talk about the meristematic tissues, and after that we will talk about the simple permanent tissues, which is parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma tissue, and complex permanent tissue, which is xylem and phloem. So let's begin with meristematic tissue. So what is meristematic tissues? Meristematic tissues, or simply we can say meristems, are the tissue in which the cell remain forever young. Why they are young? Because they are actively dividing cell. They continuously divide throughout the life of the plant. Now, depending upon the location of meristematic tissue, they are divided into three categories. One is apical, other one is intercalary, and third one is lateral. Now, apical meristem is present or located at the root and shoot tips. Clear है? And intercalary जो meristem है, that is present on vascular and cork cambium. And third one is lateral. They are present in internodes and leaves bases, especially in monocotyledon. Apical meristem is responsible for the growth of root and shoot tip, and lateral meristem is responsible for the girth of the root and shoot tip. Or we can say lateral meristem is responsible for the thickness of shoot and root. Cells of the meristematic tissues are very active and young because they are continuously dividing cells. Mitosis is main function of meristematic tissues. Here you can see the location of meristematic tissue. This is apical meristem and this is intercalary meristem, and this is the lateral meristem, which is present lateral side of the stem. Now we have to discuss about the permanent tissues. First we will discuss about the simple permanent tissues, which include parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Now you can see the parenchymal tissues, collenchymal tissue and sclerenchymal tissue. In a parenchymal tissue, it consists of relatively unspecialized cell with thin cell wall. You can see their cell wall is very thin and they are live cells. And they are usually loosely packed. You can see here much intracellular space as compared to collenchyma and sclerenchyma because they are loosely packed. Now, collenchyma tissue, this is very flexible in nature and it allows easy bending in various parts of the plants like leaf and stem without breaking it. So it provides mechanical support to plant. Collenchymal tissue present in leaf stalk below the epidermis. Their cells are also living in nature and elongated and irregularly thickened at the corners. There is very little intracellular space. You can see there is very little intracellular space as compared to parenchymal cells. And third one is sclerenchymal tissue. Sclerenchymal tissue is dead in nature. It is very hard and stiff. For example, coconut husk. Here the cell of the sclerenchymal tissue is dead and they secrete a special chemical that is known as lignin that harden it more harden. Okay, it provides tensile strength, or you can say it provides more hardness to the tissue. This lignin substances actually act as a cement in this tissue. This tissue is found in stem of the plant and seed, the covering of the seed and nuts, and this is also present in vascular bundle, in the stem around the vascular bundle. So you have to remember that sclerenchymal tissue basically present in the seeds, outer covering of the seeds, nuts and stem, hard part of the stem. If we compare these tissue structure from NCERT book, so you can see this is the parenchyma tissue. A image shows the transverse section and this is the longitudinal section of parenchymal tissue, and this is the collenchyma tissue. B1 shows the transverse section and this is the longitudinal section of collenchyma, and this C1 and C2 shows the sclerenchyma tissues transverse and longitudinal section. So here you can find that parenchymal tissues has lots of intracellular space as compared to collenchyma, and there is little bit less intracellular space in sclerenchyma, while there is no, you can see from this picture, intracellular space is less, and here you can see intracellular space is much more. And from this picture you can see sclerenchyma doesn't have intracellular space at all. If we talk about parenchymal tissues in detail, then we can say they are the living permanent tissue, living simple permanent tissue, and they have ability to divide, and they present in cortex of stem and leaves, and they also present in the pulp of the fruits. They have regeneration and healing of wound. They have power of regeneration and healing of wounds, and they also present in reproductive cells like spores and gametes, and they are basically essential for the activities like photosynthesis, storage, secretion, assimilation, respiration, excretion, and transport of water and solute. And they are, I already discussed about this, they are loosely packed, so maximum intracellular space present in this tissue. Now, if chlorophyll present in parenchyma tissue, then it is called as chlorenchyma, and they perform photosynthesis activity because chlorophyll is a pigment responsible for photosynthesis. If we talk about aquatic plant, the parenchyma tissue give buoyancy to the plant to help them float, and they have large air cavities, and this is known as parenchyma tissue. So main function of parenchymal tissue is that if they have so much of intracellular space, so they are responsible for storage of food and water, that means nutrient and water. And we have already discussed about collenchyma tissue. Collenchyma tissue is basically responsible for providing support, structure, mechanical strength and flexibility to the petioles, leaf veins and stem of the young plant, and allowing easy bending without breakage of the plant or stem or leaves. And this sclerenchyma tissue is also provide strength to the plant, and they are mature. When they are mature, they are composed of dead cells, and they have highly thickened wall containing lignin and cellulose. So lignin basically make this tissue very hard, and this is the example of sclerenchyma tissue. This is husk of coconut. So it is very thick and it provides strength to the plant. Now we will talk about the epidermis of the plant. So it is the outermost layer of the cell, and it covers leaves, flower, root and stem of the plant. It may usually made up of a single layer, but in a dry habitat where the water is very less, the epidermis may be very thicker, and it become very thick so that it can provide water loss, and it protect all the part of the plants. It secretes some waxy kind of substances so that it can also provide protection against mechanical injury, invasion by parasitic fungi, etc. So it's very important in playing the role of protection. This is the layer of epidermis which is present on the leaf. On leaf epidermis there is a small pores. These pores are called as stomata. They are enclosed by a kidney-shaped cells. This is known as guards. So basically, what is the function of stomata here? Stomata are very necessary for exchanging gases with the atmosphere, and they are responsible for the transpiration, that is the loss of water in the form of water vapor through the leaf surface. So here are two functions. This is responsible, stomata is responsible for gases exchange with the atmosphere and transpiration, loss of water. Now, if we talk about the epidermis cells which is present on the roots, basically whose function is to absorb water, and they have long hair-like structure that increase the total absorptive surface area of the root. And if we talk about the epidermis of desert plant, their water is very less. Epidermis has a thick waxy coating of cutin substances. This is a chemical substances which waterproof quality on its outer surface so that water cannot evaporate from the surface of plant. So basically epidermis function is to provide protection against mechanical injury or to evaporate water. It's safe from evaporation of water. And if we talk about the root epidermis, so it will increase its area by forming a hair-like structure so that they can absorb more water. And in desert plant, they produce a thick waxy, they provide a thick waxy coating of cutin so that water cannot evaporate from the surface of plant, because water is very less in the desert area. So this is all about simple permanent tissues and epidermis, and in our next video we will discuss about the complex permanent tissues. that is xylem and phloem.